Hi everyone, Darleen here from Tuesday Talks, and my special guest today is Natalie Kehren. Now, Natalie Kehren has a beautiful business called Healing to Begin. She's a certified health practitioner, Reiki Level 2, and a Sacred Women's Circle, I need to say the word right, Creatrix, and
Mhm.
spiritual director. Now, for Natalie, she was saying for as long as she can remember, she always felt different because she was. And she viewed it as being more open and holding a lot of wisdom by being an old soul. And I really love that because, it just means so much because I'm an old soul as well. Yet Natalie always, she really put it down to her psychic abilities that she had from birth, with little to no understanding or support around how to understand that, and that continued to grow as Natalie grew up. Now, I'd love to know more about you, Natalie, and your business, and we're going to talk about the topic of how stress kills creativity and why. And I'm really fascinated about, your what you feel that is.
Oh my God, I love that topic, Darlene, so much because it's such I think like a hidden understanding between
Mm,
what's really going on, and it's such an easy and simple fix to remedy it.
mm,
But a little bit about me, I started my business about 7 years ago out of school, and um, I started an Instagram page one day because I thought, everyone could benefit from this. I feel like everyone needs this at some level in their life if that's something that they lean into. And the way the holistic medicine works is really looking at the whole person versus just the symptoms. So, and I found so much from my personal journey, which is long and I've experienced a lot of trauma. I found such deep healing in the holistic approach and so much more. So it really helped myself and my gifts emerge in a new way, my authentic self. And now I help other women essentially do the same. And that's it in a nutshell. I mean, there's so many layers and so many things to uncover within each woman that I work with and different areas that unfold, and that we focus on. But at the end of the day, that's essentially what I'm doing. Um, and so it's great. I have a more of a personal side. I have a young little boy that I'm raising, and he's 2.5 years old. And I have one on the way. I'm expecting in about 6 weeks.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, so lots going on here. And yeah, I'm looking forward to maternity leave and just recovering and resting and all of that. So yeah, that's me.
Beautiful. And I love how you talked about the holistic approach because for those that following are aware that I spent 30 years in the healthcare field, and you're so
Oh,
right.
wow.
Treat symptoms, drugs, take it out, whatever. We treat symptoms. And so for me, I had to, really sort of join those together because I'm very holistic now as well. And I love all that. And I would love now to talk about how, because, all that beautiful healing and stress comes into it. So how do you find that stress does kill creativity? And what do you think creativity is?
Mm. Mhm. Where do I start? Um, I'm going to talk about, I think, what I believe creativity to be.
Mm,
What I've noticed on a energetic level, because with my background, I have uh, I do special focus on energy, so I'm a spiritual energy specialist. And creativity, especially for women, is the seat of their soul.
mm,
So it really channels and opens up so much of their energetic field and their energetic grid in ways that are very profound. So one way is that it really relaxes the body, mind, and soul, which allows for connection to intuition.
mm,
It really heightens and amplifies intuition, because when we're being creative and we're activating that energy within us, we're tapping into I want to call it a divine source
Mm.
that is allowing our creativity to be expressed and amplified. And I really believe it's a conversation with God, source, universe, whatever word you really
Mhm.
want to put there. So that's why I believe it's the seat of the soul, because when a woman's being creative or expressing her creativity, and there's multiple ways, and I'll list them after, to do that, she's really in a meditative, intuitive, expansive, creative state. And this activates joy and presence.
Mm.
And these two things do so many things in our lives. Two, but two very big things is that it joy helps you attract the things in your life that you need, want, desire faster. And when you amplify that with your intuition, you're able to guide yourself as to what that looks like and what that is, and have a lot
Mm.
more clarity. And to me, there's so many different ways to be creative. You express through painting.
Yep. Yep. That's one way.
Yeah, that's one way. But there's, some women, I hear this a lot where some women say, like, I'm really not at all artistic or creative. And I go, no, you are. There's one thing at least that you're creative about. Some people are really creative through writing.
Mm.
Poetry, cooking is
Mm.
like, believe it or not, a very creative space to be in. Gardening is a creative space. Um, Dancing, a creative
Mm.
space. Singing, a creative space.
Mm.
Um, it's not just something like, I don't wanna use the word artistic because art is
Mm.
in so many forms, but in painting or like putting something onto a canvas.
Mm.
Photography is creative. The work that I do is creative because I have to be creative. It's literally anything that can be
Mhm.
created.
Yeah.
And when all we do is know how to create and birth things into the world, whether it's physically um, or metaphorically, or projects or businesses or something, we're all mothers in that sense. So um, yeah, it's really such a fundamental part of a woman's holistic well-being.
Mm. Oh, you're talking to my soul. Like everything you just said is exactly what I say about creativity. It's whatever brings you joy. Like I love going for a swim in the ocean. And you know what, 5 years ago I couldn't even swim. So for me, that's creative. Yeah. That's another story. But yeah, and you're so right. It's whatever brings you joy because you're being so present in that moment. Like, and for me, cooking, like after this, I'll actually be making lunch. But I'll be present in that. I'll be present in cutting things up. And it really is amazing when you're in that moment how joyful it is because there's nothing else that really matters. What matters is what you're doing. And I've noticed that actually, even thinking about it now, I've noticed that when I'm not having a really great day or I'm feeling really stressed out, that if I go to cook something, there's actually a lot less love in it. It's like, oh, I've got to do this. I've just got to do it. And I'd love for you to talk about, what you believe stress is and how it does actually affect the creativity, because I just realized it actually does.
Yeah, it really does. It kind of, so my understanding of stress is that, I mean, it has a neurological and physical response on the body, and that response on an energetic level really creates blocks in our energetic field. So our creativity stems from mainly, but a lot of the seven main energy centers are activated, but mainly for a woman, it comes from her second chakra, which is her sacral chakra. And so worrying really activates chakras that are much higher, and take us sort of out of our body. So it's really hard when we're stressed out to calm our nervous system down and work on that physical response first, because it does act as a block, and then try to open up ourselves to that creative side again and unblock ourselves. And sometimes that takes a few days, and sometimes that takes a few minutes. Um, but it is essentially just blocking those energy centers, and different parts of your energy field. So just having that awareness. There are like some tricks that you can do to sort of de-stress, which are the like, I like to, when I have to de-stress, I like to turn to the physical body as opposed to the emotional or the energetic one, just because um I find that that's the quickest. So I either move my body or I take a bath, or sometimes getting a massage is great if that's available to you, giving yourself a massage, um, having a tea that calms you down. I use homeopathic remedies to help calm
Mm,
my nervous system down, just different things to balance me back out so that that stress factor doesn't linger for months, because
mm,
that's when we really get into trouble,
mm,
um, because then that stress becomes our norm.
mm,
And then our creativity and our joy starts to get squashed. And then if that starts to just be
mm.
like our yearly experience, that's where we have to really, I think at that point, either find someone to seek help or really develop a practice for yourself where you can unlearn that behavior and unblock your energy centers, because it just becomes into a pattern.
Yeah, and I totally agree with that because I spent 30 years on the front line healthcare field. So I was, in emergency, paramedic, etc. And I didn't realize that I was running on adrenaline, and I loved adrenaline, which of course then caused, lots of stress. My nervous system was like, what are you doing? So when I actually left that field, it took me like at least a year to
Mm,
start feeling normal. And it's just like, and you're talking my language because chakras is what I work with, and that's what I help people with. And so how do you support your clients? How do you work with them to calm
mm,
their nervous system down?
mhm. So I work with them in different ways. We have video session, and I do a lot of energy work within their field while we're in video session together. Um, and that's done through just how energetics work, and we focus on what's happening within their body
Mm,
and what's being blocked, and we sort of dig deep in there, give it a voice,
mm,
see what it needs,
mm,
ask the body what it needs, because the body tells you exactly what it needs. You just need to put in the practices to give it what it needs to help bring it back into balance. So that's a major way that I work with my clients, and that sometimes that has to do with stuff that's been trapped in the subconscious for a really long time in the nervous system, that's been operating and running the body subconsciously,
mm,
kind of been trapped and stored there. Um, and sometimes it's like an event happens where a moment, a trigger happens, and their nervous system gets really heightened, and their body sort of starts to get activated in different ways where the blocks are to come. So then we work through that. And it really depends on what the person is moving through, of course. And then I have homeopathic remedies that I'll recommend, and just some practices that I help them with, so that they develop a beautiful practice, so that they have the tools at the end of the day after we're done, the program or our session, that they feel empowered to use. They know what works and they know what doesn't, because what works for you and what works for me is different. And what works for people, it's super unique. So when they have that sort of like toolbox that they can just pull
mm.
from, they can develop a practice of consistency, and then they start to find balance a lot easier.
I love how you just said you give your clients a toolbox. Like,
Mhm.
and I'm not generalizing, but I've worked with healers and that because myself, I'm a healer, I need healers. And so often it's like, okay, I'm the expert, so you need to come to me continually. I'm not going to really sort of tell you anything. I'm just going to do healing. Yet
Mhm.
you give your clients tools. And that is really powerful and really, I feel that is that's feminine. Like that is just so feminine to go, yes, I am an expert, but I'm going to give you the tools. And how
Mhm.
did you find that, that really worked for you instead of, did you just find that happened naturally to do that?
Yeah, it was a battle. I have to say that that's really a battle within the practitioner themselves. At least that was my experience, because that thought mentality of, I'm the expert, you have to keep coming back to me, is a very disempowering to your
Mm,
client, which defeats the purpose of
mm,
why they're coming to you. And number two, it comes from an energetic patterning of lack
mm,
of abundance, that we live in lack, that if we only give so much and we pull them back in, um and make them kind of like reliant, even though that might not be the full intention. I think what's happening is a subconscious belief of lack of abundance that sort of fuels
Mm,
that. So it was an internal battle within myself to be like, no, like let's just shift how I think and how I feel and move into a state of abundance, and there's enough to go around. There's just enough to go around, more than enough of abundance and love to go around. So, and I'd rather empower the women than make them reliant on something. I'm not here to be a drug or, someone that they need to turn to. So all the time for the rest of their lives, I'm just here for that period in your journey that you need me for until you're able to walk, you know, 2 feet, chest out,
mm,
totally empowered, totally embodied in your authentic self and voice, because that's more healing to the world and their presence in other people's lives. That's what shifts and helps the world's consciousness evolve. So,
mm.
yeah, that's way more important to me than anything else.
I absolutely love that. And I could tell just by you talking about that, you can tell that you've got such a gorgeous open heart that you're not coming from that lack space. You're actually coming from that abundant space of, yes, this is what I do and I can help you. Yet I'm not going to hold on to you and go, you need to stay with me. I'm going to
Mhm.
actually give you wings to fly. And
Mhm.
that's so beautiful. Like it's absolutely beautiful. And do you actually help your clients find their own creativity?
That's I have a creative assignment in every step of my
Mm,
program. Yeah, so it's very important. We do drawing, we do painting, we do lots of things
mm,
because it's a fundamental part of a woman finding herself again. Um, and igniting that joy factor, that energy signature, that frequency is so, so, so vital to
mm,
creating the life that you desire. That's what I help women do, to empowerment and to just be
mm,
in love with life. So like life loves you back.
mm,
And yeah, so it's very important.
Yeah, yeah. And I totally agree with that. Like it really is important. And who, for those that are, watching this, who do you actually work with?
Oh, any woman. I've had love different um relationships and experiences with women from all walks of life, and it's been so healing and just an honor to be in that deep, deeply sacred space with them. I've worked with younger women who are struggling with finding their voice and their purpose when they're, in university and trying to find their way. I've worked with women who are in a job that they don't really love, but they have a passion and they need to find that voice, and get rid of the ones that are holding them down and the trauma that they've experienced that's holding them back. I work with women who are moving to the crone phase of their life where all their kids are moved out. It's an empty nest, and it's really like, what do I do now? I'm still a mother, but I don't have anyone to take care of anymore. So just helping her move through that fourth and final phase of womanhood.
Mm,
Some women are it's just about a lot of deep trauma that they've been through that they're just trying to gain clarity in their life.
mm,
And now I'm really moving into a space of helping women in the postpartum
mm,
phase of their journey because that is such a
mm,
unsupported space, and it's a sacred space, and it needs spiritual, energetic, sacred attention as opposed to, in my opinion, anything else,
mm.
or at least a huge factor in that part of their journey. So that's where I'm sort of stepping into now, which is very beautiful and really
Mm.
exciting.
That's just absolutely beautiful because I worked in many different wards, and my last ward before my last job was actually working in recovery, looking after
Mm,
women that had just had babies. And what I seen, there was some beautiful stuff, but there was also some, stuff that wasn't as beautiful. And to have someone like you come in and support them, like
mm,
that's just absolutely divine. And we need so much more of it. And did that
mm.
come about because, you've already got one beautiful child and you're now nearly ready to birth another one? Is that how
Yeah.
this came about?
Yeah, that's really how it came about. I had postpartum depression, didn't know it, and I had to move through such a I mean, you essentially in other ancient scriptures and practices, there's a belief that the woman has to choose to die at some
Mm,
point in her labor experience, metaphorically for the birth of her baby. And so she spiritually dies, that version of her dies, and then she's reborn.
wow.
So so it's two beings being reborn who were one entity and have to
Mm,
spend the rest of their life discovering how to be two. And
mm,
that's equally as hard for the baby and separation anxiety as it is for the mother. And then there's hormones and recovery from surgeries or
mm,
birth trauma that has gone on, and that's just like a whole whack of another
yeah.
conversation of, but, at the core of it, it's empowering. We have to sort of re-empower that woman again if she has had a lot of birth trauma, or she has gone through something. So I really had to move through that in different ways and find holistic practices that worked. So I just feel super equipped to
Mm,
take what I was doing before, have the journey, have a new set of tools that I can help those
mm,
women with, gift them with those. And it's just learning so much of how much support is needed. I
mm,
cannot stress that enough. So if it's not available right now in many ways, I'd rather jump in and help women than just sit back and wait for something to
mm.
happen. And I know that, and I feel and I'm confident, I can help.
Yeah, and that's what I love about the field that we're in is that we're drawn to people that, are going through what we've been through. Like I've actually
Mhm.
got mental health challenges, and I really open about that. And that's the women that I support, the business women with mental health challenges, because
Mhm.
I understand it, and I've been in the medical field, so now I understand all of that.
Oh
Like, it's
yeah.
just incredible, and that's what I love about what we do. So how do you going into that, how are you going to support yourself? Because you're going to be supporting them, but how are you gonna support yourself not to, really go down that rabbit hole?
Mhm. So I have a postpartum doula in place that I'm gonna call on a lot
Mm,
more than I did before because I have an awareness of what I need. I've set up my business where I have way more support there so that I don't feel like that's another leaking energy portal in my body that's just draining me or I'm worrying about. And then I've hired help, a beautiful woman who's helping with care for my son. So she'll be there for me
mm.
um, and help me out. So I've supported myself in that way, meaning I have the women here because that's what we need. That's traditionally what had happened. So um, in centuries and centuries ago. So um, I've supported myself in that way, and I'm looking more towards food to help nourish myself a lot more, and just taking it moment by moment and reaching out when I need to, and not convince myself like, no, I don't have that, but really just being like, I'm having a hard time. Like, where's the practitioner that I
Mm,
need next? Is it a massage? Is it acupuncture? Is it someone to speak to? Is it someone to work on my energy field? So just making a lot more time and walking in with a lot more support.
that's beautiful, and it's a beautiful that you've come to that realization because I want to do the same. I want to get back to the way it used to be, that women came together and we supported one another. Like, the young ones coming through having a period. That's time to rest. That's time to have lots of women around you to support you. Same thing with, like me looking after business women with mental illness. I will be creating all of those beautiful circles so that we come together and support one another. And isn't it beautiful that we're recognizing that that's what we need to get back to?
Oh yeah, I think that that's such a beautiful consciousness that's really starting to be recognized by so many people and being birthed by so many women into the world because it's so needed. Like the way what women are meant together
Mm,
and to do that, they need to do that. And we're like walking portals, like I said this in another conversation. We are walking portals that bring in souls from the other from somewhere. Call it
mm,
other side, call it whatever
Yep.
word makes you feel comfortable, but that's what we are. And when you put all of us in a room together and you've got all these portals, amazing, incredible things happen and amazing healing happens and the connectedness that we have to one another. That's what we're meant to do. That's why we're here. And really what's happening in the world is there is such a the balanced divine feminine is trying to pour in. So it's time and it's needed and to help bring balance back into the world.
Yeah, totally agree. I really do. And I feel that a lot more of us women are really becoming quite discerning about who our friends are. And
Mhm.
is that something that you've done as well?
Yeah, yeah, I've done that and I've put up more boundaries where I need to and just very, very intentionally aware as who's in my field,
Mm,
not just anyone, just who is there, who's lighting me up. And I think the experience of the pandemic really did that because it created it opened a space to discover our relationships with people. I think in a lot of ways, our relationships to everything. So that was really more of a recent thing for me.
yeah, sorry, a plane was just going overhead. Gotta
No
laugh
worries.
at it. And the cool thing is I don't edit any of these videos, so if people hear that plane, too bad.
That's fine. I didn't even hear anything.
That's cool. Yeah, it's just, and it really is important that we do be discerning. And it took me a long time. Like, I'm really grateful for my childhood. Yes, I've had trauma and that kind of stuff. I grew up in a religion that sort of had boundaries. And for me it actually took me quite a while to realize that I needed to let go of friends that weren't supportive, that weren't having that two-way relationship. We need to give and we need to receive. It can't be just all giving. And
Mm.
even in the workplace, and that's why I end up having to leave because I loved it, but it wasn't a healthy workplace for me, become quite toxic. And so I think that's what's happening is a lot of women are wanting to start their own businesses because they've seen what's happened and they've realized that they want to surround themselves with beautiful friends and beautiful clients.
Oh yeah, I agree. There's so many shifts in people's intentionality, if that's is that a
Mm,
word? In everything that they do, where they are, who they're with, their work. Your job is like 80% of your time of
mm,
your life.
yeah.
So, like I think people are just also shifting into a space of like, this is my one life and what do I want to make of it? How do I want it to look, feel, breathe, expand into? And that is just that creative energy pouring through again. It's so magical.
Yeah, it is, and I think that's where a lot of women are now starting to rise up and going, okay, what am I doing with my life? What really matters, and what can I actually do to change things? And that's where like you come along, and you're able to support them do that. And we need more like you and me to come up and go, hey, this is what I'm doing. I can support you. I can nurture you.
Mhm. I totally agree, Darleen, like,
Yeah,
in
yeah.
every way.
Yeah, it's so beautiful, isn't it? Now,
Mhm.
I would love for you to leave our followers with just one thing that you want them to understand, just something, even if it's just what you might consider little.
Mm. We are far more powerful than we know and recognize. And sometimes that resistance that shows up is because we're more afraid of our power than we are of our comfortability.
Mm,
Um, so just remembering that and not to resist the urge to captivate yourself in a whole new way and this inner light that's in you and letting it shine and using creativity and a bunch of tools, reaching out for support when you need it, and yeah, really living the life that you love.
beautiful, yes, and I totally agree with living the life we love. Like it really is important because, as you said, this is our life. We're here on Earth, and we need
Mm,
to live that life that means a lot to us.
oh,
Beautiful. Thank you
yeah.
so much, Natalie. And for those that are watching, in the description, I've actually got a beautiful bio about Natalie so you can learn more. Also, links to her website and her Instagram. So please go and check her out. And if you are that person, that beautiful woman that is in that postpartum, please check Natalie out and see what she actually
Mhm.
does, because we need that. And, this is what I love. For me, there is no competition. And that's why I'm interviewing every woman possible that I can, because I want our message out there that we're not in competition. It doesn't matter if we do exactly the same thing. We're not in competition. Let's bring more of that feminine out and let's really support one another.
I love that, Darlene, and I just appreciate you and everything that you're doing and having me on your podcast and your show. This has been such a beautiful conversation. So thank you, and thank you to your community and your listeners. And yeah, definitely reach out and connect if you're in need of support.
Yeah, please do. Please, check Natalie out. Beautiful. Thank you so much, Natalie. And thank you
Thank
everyone for watching and subscribing as well.